Hello. Good morning. So you have few questions, right? Herd mentality. Okay, herd mentality related aspects. So with respect to essay, GS 123 and ethics. Yeah. So I have been talking about like herd mentality, and it is proving to be uh, curse when people follow herd mentality. So what is herd mentality? So herd mentality is basically you try to do what most of the people are trying to do, and again that starts from one influential or powerful individual. I mean, you perceive them to be as influential, so because it has worked for them, many people think that the same thing will work for them also. But what most people forget is that, so when you start following particular uh, trend which has worked for others, so we think in silos, right? So I think I am the only person who is trying to follow this particular answer writing structure or essay writing style. But like you, there are thousands of other people who might be doing the same. Now what happens, we have to think from evaluator's perspective, right? Ultimately, whenever you are writing something, when you are presenting something on your paper, so the intention is to communicate your ideas according to the demand of the question in such a way that they should be able to assess you solely based on what you have presented. So evaluator should feel happy, reading your copies, not irritated. So when they get irritated, when they start seeing a pattern among all the copies, answer copies. Now somebody has said that okay, you have to compulsorily include a diagram in every answer, right? Now what happens? Everyone cannot be creative, right? Everyone cannot draw neat, clean diagrams, right? Now because somebody influential, a topper has told you to do that, so some people will start forcefully, like artificially inserting a diagram, and a topper will tell you that a definition must be an introduction. An introduction, in the introduction there must be a definition, right? You pick some keyword from the question and define it. So now everybody in the introduction start writing only definition, right? So the meaning of artificial intelligence is this. So almost 100 copies if evaluator has got, most of the answers start with the same line, right? Now as I told you, evaluator's perspective is important. Now evaluator, what happens, we have to understand the psychology here, right? So if I am evaluating a few copies, first copy is fine, lucky copy. So they see that is original for them, right? Then second, third, okay, okay. Suddenly when they start seeing the trend that there is this herd mentality. So your herd mentality implies from their perspective that you are a product of certain coaching, maybe some kind of training, right? Or any, basically coaching. You are a product of some methodology or something. Somebody has trained you, right? Now that completely goes against UPSC's fundamental principle of selecting individuals who can think on their own, who can take decisions on their own, right? So if you understand this aspect, right, then you will have to start bringing your own originality in your answers. Now how to break that herd mentality, right? Number one, you shouldn't repeat what the topper has done, right? You have to download the topper's copies, go through thoroughly, you know read them only to understand, or only to know the level of content, basically for an answer, how much of you know content they have written, how much of relevant content, how much of relevant, not just content in terms of maybe the quality of examples, what level they have written, but not for presentation and structures, right? And also see if there is a pattern among his answer copies, if he is following particular structure across GS 123 papers. So now you have to think original. So now can I improvise this, right? So that should be the mindset, not just following it, right? Can I improve upon this? What extra I can do, right? So maybe you can, if he has written only definition in the introduction, maybe now you have to think differently, right? Can you combine definition with another idea, right? Exactly related to the demand of the question, right? So that becomes your own style, and maybe can evolve your own way of writing introduction. Maybe you can read certain standard textbooks, right? See how particular topic is introduced in textbooks. They will take liberty of introducing a topic in entire one page or like multiple paragraphs. But can you condense that? The Prezi writing, that, right? 1,000 words you condense in one third. So that talent should be used here. So see, can you effectively introduce any answer in as few words as possible? So I used to tell that your introduction should be such that if you write 2 lines, it should be like 2 essay topics that you have written, right? You have created your own essay topic. So there is so much meaning in 5-6 words that you have written in the introduction, right? So the moment we read such a thoughtful introduction, thoughtful I am using the word because that line you are writing is giving rise to a flood of, right, thoughts. So when you write such kind of introduction, that is a glimpse into a candidate. अच्छा लगता है ना, like you feel good about such kind of people, a thinking candidate, right, a thoughtful one. So who it indicates that you are well read, right? You have analytical bent of mind, critical thinking aspects, right? The precise qualities that UPSC is looking for, right? And that again should again come in the body part also. So in the body, what most people miss out again in answers because of herd mentality, uh, because somebody presented, like you have seen these structures, right? So you have introduction and then body may say, and then you write one line and something. So this is one structure, like, right? Another is that key. So you do something like this. So people think that changing the diagram is originality, right? And then you have, so there is nothing wrong if you are using this kind of structure where you have paucity of time, right? So let's say out of 20 you have written 16 now. So to write 4 answers you are just left with 10 minutes, right? During that time you go with this structure, that only the skeleton, only the keywords, the most important word and example you can just write like this. But for other answers come with different directives, right? The most popular directives: discuss, analyze, comment, examine, right, and explain. So discuss is at the top. So next comes the analyze, next comes the comment, next comes the examine. So what do I mean by it is at the top? So discuss demands from you holistic treatment of the question. So the question may not be asking challenges, the question may not be asking solutions, right? It can be just a statement and then discuss, right? But you have to bring that dimension in the discuss. So basically discuss involves debating a particular topic from every possible angle. So analyze is similar, but there the opinion matters. No, you have to analyze. Analysis means breaking things into parts, subparts, and from basic to advanced level you have to analyze. So examine basically. So it has its own different structure. And then comment, mostly it should be paragraph, the total answer, because you are given an issue and you are asked specifically to comment, give your opinion about its relevance or its whatever it is. So that will have a different structure. Now when you write uniform structures across the GS papers, now there itself you are writing irrelevant things in the way that you are not meeting the demand of the question, right? So demand of the question is not just in terms of putting content, right? Now last 3-4 years it happened so that people started focusing too much on the content part, like dumping it basically. The more you pack in 150 words or 250 words, the more marks you will get. So that kind of thinking started coming into answers. Now what is more important is to being precise and meeting the exact demand of the question, right? It can be just 100 words, it can be 200 words. It's not about dumping content, but it is about you know yeah, meeting the demand of the question. So again, some people, even in the interview I see that some people, uh, when a question is asked, they try to say what they know, rather than, for example, do you know the application of artificial intelligence in agriculture? They will say, uh, sir, artificial intelligence ka, I don't know agriculture application, but I know its application in something maybe related, maybe food processing industry or maybe something, right? Somewhere maybe. Good. So they dodge the question and they try to, because they are under the pressure that to say something. Something similar happens in mains, right? When you don't know the exact demand of the question, you write what you know. You pick up a keyword from the question and you write something relevant to the keyword. So that will not get you any marks. And people feel that they have written relevant, but it is not relevant. The question must be understood in its entirety, right? And there will be 2 to 3 parts, but again, combining all parts, there will be you know uh, connectedness, interlinking of all parts also, right? So in essay, breaking herd mentality is through the kind of books you are reading, right? The kind of creativity you have, the kind of documentary you have watched, right? The kind of extracurriculars you have, anything specific to you, anything special to you should be abundantly used in essay, right? So you may be, I see people writing, reading non-fiction as their hobby. So you have like so many ideas when you are reading non-fictions, right? Bring them here, bring them, you know, use them to drive certain arguments. But again, people, because of this herd mentality aspect, people say you have to write pastel approach, political, social, economic, technological, legal, cultural, environmental. So there again it is gone, the originality. So the moment you are under the compulsion to bring a political angle, you will think of a current affairs. The moment you are under the compulsion to bring a technology aspect, you might not have read about technology, but what you see is what is there in the news, right? And people will tell you in conclusion you should end with certain quote or something, like I see the people using the cliched things, vasudhaiva kutumbakam, and something of that sort, like it's so predictable, right? So that predictability should not be there, especially in essay, right? So paragraph after paragraph, they should reflect again your thoughtfulness, right? Your ability to look at a topic from all possible dimensions, from close angle, and then dissecting the topic, and so that analysis basically, and that again critical analysis here, and then constructive criticism. throughout the essay there should be optimism, right? You have a negative issue, can you, while analyzing its causes, its implications, can you also think of how to solve that issue, right? How to turn it around, to make it a positive thing. So that optimism, that constructiveness should be evident in your essay. The same thing must be evident even more prominently in ethics, right? Ethics is a problem solving paper basically, right? So majority of the marks you will get in the case study. So case study is for around how many, 84 marks, right? 120 marks, sorry, yeah. Out of 120 you have the, you can score up to 75 marks in case studies alone, right? So like 12 to 14 could be the highest marks per case study. If it is 12 per case study, then 12 into 6, around 72, right? So 12 to 14 in that range if you get, and how will you get 12 to 14? Again, I see people not writing introduction in case studies, right? They directly jump to the question. I see people just writing that stakeholder diagram, everyone. You put a circle and then you write stakeholders as if it is some rocket science. You're picking the 4 characters from the case study and you are wasting this much space, just you are writing stakeholders, right? And people cannot write ethical issues. I mean, you cannot identify and you cannot write it also. They write random words, this versus that, this versus that. So that doesn't actually reflect your understanding of the case. So the introduction again is gateway, like for evaluator to see, have you understood the case, the magnitude of the issue, the complexity of the issue, right? Have you understood in its entirety? So that should be reflected in at least 40-50 words in the introduction, right? So that should combine the most important ethical issue, the biggest challenge that case is posing to you, right? And your creativity, like give hint, like what kind of solution you are thinking of. Context, every case will have context, right? The context must be maybe a current affair, maybe a futuristic thing, maybe a historical event or something. So you must be knowing the context also, right? And then in the body part, one thing that is always missing in ethics answer is ethical justification. So what do I mean by that? You say the course of action that uh, let us say there is sexual harassment in an office. So the lady has complained but no action has taken place because the person who has committed is a powerful individual. He has contributed immensely to the growth and profit of the company. You cannot, is indispensable basically, right? Now the company management is kind of trying to uh, uh, suppress or calm her down, or maybe giving some offer of money, this and that, to cool the things off. So now people will write maybe one line they will write. So in this scenario, like you are the friend of that colleague maybe, right? So you have to do something about it. So the people will write, in this scenario I will uh, convince the perpetrator, that my friend, to uh, maybe apologize or resign from his job. So if he doesn't oblige or listen, then I will go to the management and will make them understand of the gravity of the issue. And I will also tell them, if this is not resolved, entire company image may be harmed or something. Even if they don't listen, I will go to police authority or something, right? The people, this way you write, right? Now what is missing here is justification. Now for the first point, why do you want to convince your friend? Hmm? So why are you thinking, like, why are you thinking of convincing him? Why are you thinking of appealing to his conscience or whatever it is?
Reconciliation, self management of work.
Hmm. Ah, justification can be anything. Justification can be something. Here there are like around 4 kind of justifications. One, you have to pick it from a theory that you have read, right? Let's say Immanuel Kant has said that in such kind of ethical dilemma, in kind of such kind of situation, he says no, means are more important than the ends. Immanuel Kant, that's what he says. So now you have to identify what is the mean or something. So you have to say that it's not the outcome, it's the process here in case of appealing to him according to, you can think of better point. So according to particular theory, or somebody, some contemporary philosopher or somebody might have said something. One, that is one justification. Second, a Supreme Court might have come up with directives. We see the final judgment, but within that judgment there may be few things. How arbitration, mediation, something like this. Mediation maybe, right? So then you say the mediation is best suited in this situation because of XYZ reasons. The third one is a story or a novel or a epic. In epic, you might have read, right? So when something happened to Draupadi, somebody might have come up with uh, an argument that this shouldn't have happened, right? You should go and apologize. Dushyasan ko bola hoga kisi ne, right? That also you can use because that is also part of moral philosophy. And the last one could be any current example, right? Not current example, the consequence. The consequence is the justification here. Now, if you don't do this, right, what will happen to you, right? You got it? So something like that should be there. No, we don't see that in ethics answer. They will just try to do this and that. One or two arguments will be there because of this and that, but that is the soul of the ethics answer, right? So how we were linking certain outcome of an event, or when you are trying to solve a problem, what is the source of your judgment, right? Got it? So that is about ethics papers.
So, in introduction to UGS, there is this trend that you write current affairs or definition or article, something like that. Now, if some question comes about privacy, then usually we start with Kutasma, that this was.
No, don't do that.
Usually we do that, but in court as what I felt that I am able to correct questions more with current affairs. So I linked that to privacy bill, which is recently introduced. And I said that this is the main issue where state, like it was question about privacy and state, like the state's role in it, how it should maintain and what should be the balance, some type of question was there. Then I introduced it with that. I got marks, but I'm not sure that that is chalta hai.
See, no introduction is an irrelevant introduction. The introduction, some introduction is still an introduction, right? But now the competition is about quality introduction. Now, how can you write a better introduction than that? So, what was the exact question? Something related to privacy
and privacy. Like, the role of state and privacy. Something question was related about this. And so, what I felt was this question was asked with respect to data privacy. Like I got to know by the reading question, you know why this question is asked. So I started all my definitions going behind that reason. If this question is asked, there is some context in which this question is asked. I started introducing my questions with that context.
Fine, that is also good. The context is also important. Even if it is not directly asked, the context is always important in the introduction. You must bring context in the introduction.
Because I saw when this year's question was, I felt every question had something to do with current affairs, which was asked. Like maximum questions were of that. So I thought
that is good idea. Context you should use it. So the context one, that is one. So combine that line with
article 19.
Can be article 19, and you bring that article 19 after your introduction, right? The background and the basics related to that particular topic. So in the another line could be something about how so it is the duty of the state to protect privacy of the citizens, right? Protect, preserve, whatever it is. But sometimes it happens so that the states might themselves knowingly or unknowingly.
That was the issue, sir. Like even the data protection bill which is not being passed, it is because the state government has the arbitrary rule that it can scrutinize anything.
Yeah, right.
That is the main thing. So public accounts committee, even public account committee question was also asked. It has two contexts. It has crossed 100 years now.
Correct.
And second is that this committee, this bill was into this standing committee. In that standing committee, same party MPs have given two different opinions. So that is the beauty of standing committee.
Correct.
So I quoted that
Deliberation.
I quoted that exact name of that.
That is also good. Good.
So is
See,
that
remember the context as part of the, even in ethics I told you, context. So even in GS and even in essay, the context forms the key component of any introduction. If you know the context, you should use it, right? So along with that, I don't know the entire question. Depending on the demand of the question, you put one line that addresses. It can be opinion. It can be straightforward opinion about what it is asking. That line. If it is not opinion based question, it is generally it is asking you to just analyze. They have given a statement or something. So then a good thought about which sums up entire answer in one line, right? So that should be part of the
that should be thought, not the stand of the question.
yeah.
Like if it is critically analyzed, what we do is positive, negative, and then we write this should be the thing.
Correct.
This should be the But when the question is about critically analyze, then in introduction we need to give a thought, not the
Exactly.
thing.
No. That you are elaborating and breaking in the body, right?
Conclusion part will do that. This
Correct.
Right,
Yes. So now when I read your introduction, I know this candidate knows the answer because you know the context. Second one, I know that you know the answer because the entire answer you are summing up in one line, thoughtful line. So now sometimes ऐसा लगता है because see, I basically built this thing through individual interaction. I've literally evaluated lakhs of answers, to be honest. I don't know, thousands of essays. So sometimes it happens that I have seen only introduction and given 4-5 marks. Not the because the introduction is window to your thinking and your personality, to me. So many people ignore that aspect. Introduction, the namesake, they will write one fact, something. So that is the mindset to show off that you know one fact about the answer, right? When you write one fact or something, it doesn't reflect that you know the entire answer. So if that is there in most of, again, not for the first answer I will give, like if I know that you have been writing like that, in some answers you have shown this so much promise, so then it happens. So basically you have to make evaluator happy and proud also, that finally he has got a copy that is worthy of his time, attention, energy, right? So they are basically investing their.
Basically, what I think while writing introduction is that first even I used to write this static. What I have read, I'll write static. But later, as test evolved, I thought I'll write introduction as if the person who has said this question, I'll respect that person. Like,
Very good.
I'll go behind what he has, like what made him create this question. I'll give that context so that he'll be like static article 19, article 21, sabko kar rahe. But if I write this context, okay, you have said this question because this has happened. I think that will create more respect and more like
exactly
in totality that okay, he is aware with this issue.
Same thing in the interview, right?
This is a debate of amateur level and expert level. He's saying we should write that as an expert instead of writing this
not expert.
It's not expert or amateur. It's
if
about
I read the current affairs and regarding the public accounts committee. It means I already know the basic part of what is public accounts committee, what are its composition and everything. And if the demand, obviously the question will be an issue.
Correct.
They won't ask you what is this and what is that. So if we use his way, then it gives the examiner the view, like you said, that the student has well read. He understands everything.
So basically, his thing is he should match the expectation, right? Now somebody has put a thoughtful question to you, right? I expect thoughtful answer to it. The same thing happens in interview. In interview वही होता है ना, like क्या होगा, you ask them a question. Now I don't want them to say obvious and very generic thing in the very beginning itself, right? So first I want them to respect my question, understand it has a context, it has its own demand, and then थोड़ा time लेके think करके come up with that perspective or a thought, idea, argument that will make me feel happy about you, proud about you. Think like that. That's what evaluator perspective मैंने बोला ना.
I'll respect that person who has said that.
ठीक है, continue to respect. ठीक है. Good. So point wise versus the next move करते हैं ना. Yeah, tell me.
regarding your previous part on ethical justification, you were saying that you should mention, so the justification should be one whole part for the entire question, or should be part for the part?
You can structure it the way you want. You can first write your course of action, and then in the end, after that, you can write the justification.
So like the sexual harassment case you were mentioning, so I can, in simple words, I can say it is against seeing evil and not doing something about it. It sums up multiple theories in very few words. Is that okay?
It can be a quote also, like better quote than what you said. So that can also be justification. अभी कोई बोला होगा प्लेटो ने, or somebody might have said that uh, some quote related to that. So being blind to immorality is akin to
Even
something.
when innocent people do nothing.
Yes. Correct. It can be a quote from Gita also, Bhagavad Gita. So you might know a slok from Bhagavad Gita line, or it can be from Bible also maybe, right? So
Introduction of case study can't be preceding of the entire case.
no, it's not preceding. It's about same the way GS introduction हमने ये किया ना वहाँ पे. बस यहाँ पे क्या है कि there is philosophy is involved. In GS you cannot bring the philosophy. Maybe in exceptional cases like society related questions or some social justice related questions, but most of the questions there is related to a particular issue. The content is important. Okay, so point wise versus, see, this paragraph versus point format. So this debate is going on like since decades in UPSC. It's always about basically breaking the trend. Right now, the last 3-4 years, this point format has been the dominant trend. Right, and people were rewarded. Now, UPSC, as far as I understand, it's all about breaking the trends. Right, so suddenly they will ensure that the people who are getting into the mains examination clearing and writing mains, so are all thinking alike. Right, now we have to change this particular thinking. So how do we do it? Punish, right? So that is why you have to, in this case, middle path is the best solution. I personally believe middle path is the sign of mediocrity, but यहाँ पे middle path, some answers point format where the question starts with what, examine, explain, enumerate, right? In some answers, it's the mix of point format and paragraph. Basically, the thing is, when we say paragraph format, it's basically analysis, right? So again, you are trying to analyze an issue. What is analysis? Basically, again, like not just analysis, like critical analysis. You look at the topic, you have an argument, right? And to justify that argument or validate or substantiate that argument, you have an example, right? An example or an illustration or something. So that should be there. And when you write just one line, like 3-4 words, and then you put only one word example, that argument is not complete. It doesn't address the demand. So you have to use few extra words to tell why you are arguing in this way. So the solution here is that, let's say 10 markers, you have 8 points, right? Out of 8 points, 4 points you do this analysis, another 4 points you write the way you write, right? The most important 2 point you analyze, key argument, substantiation, validation, and then another point. Other 2 point you can just write so that the balance is maintained. So the psychology is again in the better introduction, and introduction ke baad in every answer you have to define the keyword. The question is asking or not, you have to define keyword, any keyword. They may not be asking, like it may be asking ki just like artificial intelligence is not just the future, right? Technology has ability to surprise or shock us, something, comment. Now people may not define artificial, it is implied now that artificial intelligence, will go on writing. Now you write the introduction about something, the the rapidness of technology, how it can bring surprises. Because of what? Because of technology itself, maybe technology aiding people's creativity, technology amplifying people's creativity or something, something like that. So then you define what is artificial intelligence in 2 words, give example, then start your arguments, divide this into parts, right? Something like this. So in the body, uh, allocation of weightage is important. Like you know that it's just a statement and then there is comment. Now you have to divide it into parts, right? You should know to which part how many points to write. You should be able to judge which part of the answer requires more weightage, right? So in some answers, solution will require, if the question is explicitly asking solutions, in my opinion, that requires more weightage. But people just write in the end like 3-4 solution because they know so much about background and everything. They fill the sheet. But solution part is most important because that is where your originality will be tested, right? You have to think and answer. You might not have read solutions, right? So that should be given more weightage. Got it? So you should be able to assess, like judge based on the nature of the question. So that's what. Comparison of constitution with other major specific questions are asked. How to deal with them. So better to see this any country that even in the interview I used to ask. For example, if somebody has put IFS first, so now many people are coming, right? Interview daily 14-15 people. So there will be 2 to 3 with IFS first. Okay, so let us start with provisions of Sri Lankan constitution. So can you name 3-4 important provisions of Sri Lankan constitution? So why do I ask that question? Hmm? No. Why do I ask? Why am I asking that question? Hmm? No, people are aware of the issue. They know that there is economic crisis. Okay, driven by some bomb blast and then COVID and drop of tourism. People know about it. But now you want IFS, right? Hmm? Now I am not asking talk about the Rwandan constitution or Mali constitution, right? I am just asking about Sri Lankan. For me, it is a perfectly logical question. So if you are aspiring to be IFS, you should know the minimum basic structure of that particular constitution. So I might ask similarly with respect to Nepal, right? I am curious to know about Pakistan right now, right? And then to some extent Afghanistan, Taliban kaise chala rahe country, ठीक है? And then asked, does China have a constitution? Yesterday किसी को, right? IFS first लिखा था, तो didn't have clue. Do you know? It may have, it may not. I don't know, right? It will have, of course, but we don't think like that, right? So when these kind of questions come, it's about preparation, right? You have to anticipate these kind of questions, right? And then prepare accordingly. If any country that has implication for India's growth or development is going through a constitutional crisis, then you should know the few things about that constitution. It can be France, it can be England, it can be Ukraine and Russia, right? Not Ukraine, but at least Russia, right? So like that, you will have like hardly like 5 to 6 countries. So you prepare that. So under IR, it can be comparison of constitution, or it can be about of course the usual bilateral relations with respect to certain trade and other aspects or cultural angle. So those are basically factual questions. So this is about theoretical, right? And also about of course it comes in the constitution, party system, the kind of democracy they have, right? Something like that.
Higher question please.
Hmm.
When we write way forward or conclusions, there can we include that thing?
again, never use the word way forward in any of your answers. The word way forward never use in any one of your answers.
Conclusion should be like
Every question will have its own demand. It can be futuristic solutions. It can be just solutions. It can be,
Incremental changes of past solutions.
it can be like innovative ideas. It can be something like suggestions, right? Something like this, like way forward. Abhi, again, purely herd mentality. Before conclusion, everybody wants to way forward, right? Way forward, something.
not in every question.
No, people do that, but don't use the way forward also. That also indicates. Try to use the synonym ढूंढ लो suggestions के लिए, ठीक है? Use them. Possible solutions.
Possible solutions.
Sir, but in higher questions, while we write our concluding part, okay, concluding statement, either in 10 marker or 15 marker. So when we put up their opinion, like when we put up our opinion there, 99% of times for me, it is not my opinion. It is always from newspapers I pick up.
Correct.
This person or that person.
Hmm.
Should I write that name?
No.
Or like I should ignore writing?
See, if you have 3 points, 1 point you can do that. 2 point, improvise and write it as your own points, right? So you don't have to write for every point. 1 point should be that. That again shows your understanding of the issue. And then 2 points you can just improvise and write.
Sir, regarding the paragraph versus point-wise debate, sir, I think it works in simple questions where when they are asking about simple things. But when the questions are complicated about issues, especially in environment or in GS2 government systems, right? Then you have to. I can't. In paragraph systems, I have seen in some toppers paper like they write very simple words, keywords, right? Failure of this, failure of that, abrogation of this, or SC judgment this. Is that okay? Is it implied that I know that and I also know that you know that?
No.
Or should I explain it in more words?
You have to explain.
What specifically I am trying to point out here?
So if it is very simple concept, no, right? If it is concept that you should judge it basically, right? So what is too simple and what is?
Like in environment, every issue is like.
But the best bet is to explain, in as many few words as possible.
How do we do that, sir? How do we explain our ideas thoughtfully in very few words?
That सोचना पड़ेगा ना. Like in interview, people do that. The thing you write in 7 minutes, they have to say it in 30 seconds. Right. So basically, what I suggest, how to do that? The same question they will ask. You have to think. You have to sit and think. Right. So that is where the frequent writing will come into rescue. So once you master that, you are rank 1. Because you can communicate so many things in 150, 200 words. Right. So our again the focus is on being thoughtfulness. Can I think of ideas? Can I condense this entire thing and write in like 2 to 3 lines also? Right.
2 to 3 lines or 2 to 3 words?
No, lines like in yes. No, I am just talking about 1 or 2 point related.
Okay.
So you bring your answer, we'll tell you how to do it. Abhinay.
Yes.
Fine. So last issue is asked about diagrams. Diagrams, mentor suggests to include in most of the maps. See, in every geography question, minimum 2 diagrams must be there. That is also my suggestion. Every geography question, okay, whether it is optional or GS, every kind of geography question. It can be related to flood, it can be related to vegetation, it can be related to anything. Ensure that minimum 2 diagrams are there, right? So geography is not just like सिर्फ word लिखने से marks नहीं आएगा वहाँ. So you have to create diagram also where it's not there. Basically, creative expression is important in that kind of questions, and in some art and culture questions, right, and some geopolitical related questions, map is required. In art and culture questions, if at all, it's about architecture or some kind of. Depending on the in every art and culture chapter, you will see illustrations, diagrams in any textbook, right? Similarly, you see in this also. But in Lakshmikant you won't see, right? So वहाँ पे क्या diagram लिखना है, right? So diagrams you write only where it is demanded. So in paper 3 it's about more of graphs, more of you know, what a Venn diagram, if it is economic questions, right? Again environment question also diagrams are needed, right? And then again security issues, if it is something related to geopolitical, maybe map or something, border map or something, but not of missile diagram, right? So S400 question either you cannot write missile diagram, right? So but again if it was too much technical related, maybe if you're really aware of, maybe you can write, but not in general, right? So you don't have to write diagram in every answer. So it depends on the demand of the question. So वहाँ पे time you will lose so much time if you try to write diagram in every answer. So
Sir, in ethics, the quotation question, in that UPSC has two things to ask. One time it asks that what it means to you, and second it asks that what is its relevance in current context. So these two are two different things. So how to address these two different things?
see what it means to you should be answered from your own perspective. That like let's say कोई question, so कुछ quote होगा, right? An unexamined life is not worth living. An unexamined is not worth living. So write in your context something whatever it is. So if you have to write that answer in your own context, you have to find 3-4 scenarios where you say that, you know, self examination, maybe self introspection, right, that is important because of 3-4 valid reasons. Maybe you can divide this answer into 4 present contexts, right? You as an citizen of the country, right? Citizen of the country. So why that self examination is important? Maybe to become informed citizen, somebody who can contribute to the nation building, right? Like are you littering around, are you, you know, throwing this here and there, are you maintaining cleanliness or something like that. Another could be with respect to the family, that, you know, are you a good son, right? Are you a good husband or something? So that is again for what end, right? Another could be with respect to your aspirations and your goals, right? Why that examination is important, and to bring clarity whatever it is. So at 3-4 level you have to do that. No, that is one type. Another type could be you as a child, childhood में, ठीक है, school days में, outside school में, and phases, that also it can be do, right? So something like that. So 2 to 3 ways will be there, you have to think. So you can bring the combinations are different. If it is in the context of the say country, right, unexamined life, then you think of an institution, election commission, for it an unexamined life is ठीक है, or CBI maybe, or head of such institutions, right, or any public figure, or in the entire nation, you know, how collectively we have to introspect, we have to collectively, you know, examine what kind of society we want to create for our future generations, for the future of the planet or something like this, right? So समझ में आ गया ना? So something like that. Sub paragraph. You are communicating, right? You are there also communicating. यहाँ पे you are convincing also. And I have to read every word here in ethics. ऐसे में point में क्यों नहीं लिखते हो? लिखो point में. Why you don't write in point form? It can be made, but you don't write because you know you have to tell a story. No, कोई story book point format लिखते हैं, novels, short stories, right? So that organic nature of the thing will be lost when you. I keep telling is the soul will be missing. So that should be there. So that you have to, without being verbose, without being beating around the bush, you have to develop that ability to say more. ठीक है, I'm mock a bit. So mock interviews are scheduled now, 10:20 onwards. ठीक है.
Sunny, how to write answers in modern history conclusion? In history, modern or world history? World history, some conclusion can be made. Like with reference to today's happenings, I can relate something and I can write some futuristic answer to that question. Like what linkage with World War III struggle. But in modern India, what to write?
Modern India, the same strategy can be used. If it is about Gandhian question, can you link it with contemporary? If it is about Quit India movement, right? The thought behind that movement, can it be linked to any contemporary event or something? So mostly it works that way only. The two things should be there in the conclusion. Again, being constructive, optimistic, constructive suggestion or optimistic, and another futuristic. In the sense ki with respect to history, futuristic is now, right? For issue which is happening now, futuristic is the future later. So that way you have to bring some dimension. But conclusion must also be good. People can change their opinion in your favor, by reading conclusion. In answer you have disappointed, but conclusion can revive, especially in essay. So important essay.
But I think it is better to prepare different structure for different parts. I guess. So we have to think differently for ethics answers.
Yes.
For GS answers.
Totally different demand is.
Everything goes differently for different things, right?
Correct. See, everything, modern history has its own demand. Art and culture, geography, society questions, right? So society questions must be more analytical in the entire GS1 papers, right?
Is that possible in the time limit scenario? Is that possible to frame all these things and build these things by self in the given time limit?
More writing practice, core batch you are writing, right? So that is the opportunity to experiment. That's why in my orientation you have heard, right? Focus on the quality, not on the quantity in the beginning. So if you first internalize that, okay, these kind of topics require different kind of treatment, and then in the full length paper that will naturally come. And even individually you can practice, you can pick up secure questions, there also you can try. But again, just remember that being original doesn't mean like going out of context or like being irrelevant. So within the purview, within the framework of question, you have to find the thing is there. In NCERT itself there will be content, something which can bring original touch in your answers. So you have to have an eye for finding such kind of lines, examples, illustrations. Okay, all the best.